Hi, I'm Sky Rose. I'm a software engineer at MBTA. I work with Harlan, and we're working on a small app for Green Line operations. Today, I'm going to talk about what it's like to be working at MBTA while simultaneously advocating for better transit as a member of the public. What it's like to be on the border between insider and advocate. So I work for MBTA because I love transit and I care about transit and I want it to be good. Before I joined MBTA, I advocated in my free time for better transit, and I still do that. So I'm going to talk about two ways I do that. One is by working with Transit Matters, and they do things like advocate for late night bus service and electrifying the commuter rail service so it can be more frequent. And I also give feedback as a member of the public to MBTA's Better Bus Project. And I'm going to talk about the ways that these interact in conflict with my job. There's not going to be a lot of answers from this talk, just a lot of interesting situations that bring up some questions. So my goal is to make MBTA as good as it can be, and I've got a finite amount of time and energy. So where do I spend that energy? If I'm spending lots of time on Transit Matters, and that means I have less time and energy for work, does my work at Transit Matters have a net positive impact on the MBTA? And it's a little hard to compare the two, because as a software engineer, my work is focused way down in the details. While I'm at Transit Matters, it's a lot of more bigger picture thinking. And so it's a little hard to say, like, how do these two different types of work compare? But both kinds of work are valuable. We need both that down in the weeds thinking and the big picture thinking. As an advocate, I'm really saying someone else should be doing that down in the weeds thinking, while when I'm at work, I'm doing that. So where is my time and energy most effective? I guess for Transit Matters, because it's so big picture, it has a potential to be more impactful, but only if it works. Whereas at work, I'm doing the small things every day, piece by piece, step by step. So I try to keep my job and my advocacy pretty separate, and with Transit Matters, I think I've succeeded. Commuter rail and Green Line are pretty separate, but here's a story of when they got mixed. So the MBTA's Better Bus Project has been seeking input from the public on what they value in a bus network. One of the things I value is having direct, simple, understandable bus networks that can be more frequent and trustworthy instead of whatever this bowl of spaghetti is. So then my coworker, who works on the data behind the schedule API, started asking for input on how that data source can represent bus variations better to give a better experience. And oh no, my two worlds are colliding here. He asks me, how can the data team make route variations more understandable? And I answer, by having fewer route variations. And like, that's not a helpful answer. So here, my advocacy made me less able to give good input at work. So that night, it was raining. I took the bus. I took the 225C to Columbian Square. Except actually, I took the 225C to Columbian Square via Shaw Street, which is a different variation that left me half a mile away from my destination in a thunderstorm. I got soaked. I was not a happy cat. So the next day at work, my shoes were still wet, and I complained to the data team, whatever we do here, making clearer presentations of the variations isn't going to be enough. We have to simplify them. But they're the data team. They can't really do anything about that. I didn't really expect that to go anywhere. But then my coworkers forwarded this story to the Better Bus Project team. And they can change the schedules. And they will be able to use my story as evidence for why they should simplify the system and run more trustworthy routes. So that's a win, right? I was able to push to make the bus network better, which was my goal. But my work and my advocacy became blurred together. Was this an advocate thing, or was I doing this at work? And I'm still trying to figure out the ethics of these situations. But I'm trying to stay focused on the motivation for all of it, which is making the MBTA as good as it can be. And I've got two angles I can approach that from, as my day job and as an advocate. And I've got to be careful, both in budgeting my time and energy, and in avoiding these potential conflict of interest and ethical issues. But the result is that I can have a bigger impact on something I care about. If you want to join me in making the tea better, my team is hiring for several different projects and positions. I work with Harlan, tonight's organizer, and he's pretty great to work with, and there's a whole team of other great people. I'm Sky Rose, thank you.
I'll take Sky down in the details more than I'll take almost anybody.